Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to this session of Quran for Ramadan. In our last two sessions, we have been discussing certain verses from Surah Bani Israel, and we have seen that how this passage actually can be referred to as the Ten Commandments of the Quran. These commandments that are given, they are primarily meant for our moral upkeep and for our personality development and for the vices that we might or in fact we should avoid. And each of them, the way they have been stated, the way it has been stated, they have a lot of appeal to all of us, and they make us realize that as far as humanity is concerned, as far as a person is concerned, unless we are consistent with our quest to become a better person, the part of our personality which the Almighty wants to have us improved will always remain well short of it. So this passage from Surah Bani Israel that we have been studying is one of the most comprehensive passages in the Quran that actually is instrumental in letting us know what we have to do as far as our moral personality is concerned. I'm just going to share the screen with you so that you are able to see how this particular passage from the Quran, again, like other passages, has a lot to share. So just a second. Seems to me that was okay. I think I'll have to share another part of the screen, which is slightly different. This would be a Word file, uh, primarily because the other file has somehow gotten uh, deleted. So just sharing the Word file. Okay, so this starts off from verse 33 onwards, and I'm just going to read the text before you so that you are able to understand how it is connected also from with the previous verse. So yesterday we finished off with the directive which is mentioned in verse 32. It says, "La taqrabu zina innahu kana fahisha wa sa'a sabila," and we have seen that how this important directive regarding the preservation of the family has its impact. And if this is something that is not kept in mind, then we know that the whole fabric of the family structure, it just disintegrates. Next thing which is mentioned is وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا فَقَدْ جَعَلْنَا لِوَلِيِّهِ سُلْطَانًا فَلَا يَسْرِفْ فِي الْقَتْلِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ مَنْصُورًا. So a translation of this would be, and do not wrongfully kill any person whose life has been held sacred by God, and remember that he who is slain unjustly, we have given his heir the authority. Then he should not exceed limits in killing because he has been helped. So, viewers, this is the directive which is mentioned in with some emphasis, and this is not the only place which is mentioned. And it states that at all cost, the sanctity of human blood must be upheld. Human beings, they are, of course, the life they have been given is something which holds sanctity, which holds holiness, and they cannot be in any way be killed and murdered. And the only exception, of course, is that if there is a rightful plea against which someone who has killed a person should be killed in return. And we know that from the Quran, there are just two crimes on the basis of which capital punishment can be given. One of them is that if someone is guilty of killing another person, and the other one is if a person is guilty of spreading anarchy and disorder in the land. Barring these two, there is no other basis for a death penalty in the Quran. And also, we have to realize that this death penalty is something which human beings can themselves not give. This is the prerogative of the state. It is only the state authorities, it is only the government to whom a case would be reported, registered, and if a person is guilty of murdering someone or is guilty of spreading anarchy and disorder in the land, which of course, includes, heinous crimes like rape or hijacking for ransom, or, giving institutions, destroying them through vandalism and destruction, creating a law and order situation. So this is how the crime of the capital punishment should be given. The capital punishment, it is something that does not warrant any other crime. And the other thing which is the Quran is mentioned here is that the heirs of the murdered person can pardon the killer if they want to. But if we look from at other instances in the Quran as well, then it is very clear that this pardon can only be accepted if the government also is satisfied that such a pardon would be something that can really, allay the fears, and it can just extinguish the fire of revenge. Otherwise, if the government thinks that such a dangerous criminal cannot be pardoned, then even with the pardon of the family, such pardon cannot take place, and the criminal cannot be forgiven. And remember, murder and killing is such a crime in a society. When it becomes common to take the blood of people, then the life, wealth, and honor of people, they don't remain protected. So it is absolutely essential. But yes, on the other hand, it is also important to realize that at times the fire of revenge, the frenzy of revenge, it can be totally extinguished if this magnanimous attitude is adopted, in which you forgive the murdered person. But as I said, it has to be with the consent of the government as well, and more so because at times honor killings in our society have become rampant, And what happens is that in this situation, sometimes father will kill a daughter, and then the rest of the heirs would forgive the father, and he would go scot-free. So you see, this is a situation that we have been facing in countries like Pakistan and in other countries in which the family is pardoned once they kill their daughter. If the father kills the daughter, or maybe the brother kills the sister for honor, and then the rest of the family just forgives. So this is something which is not acceptable. I mean, as I said, this is only something that can be acceptable once the government also is satisfied that such a killing it deserves such a pardon. Otherwise, in such cases as honor killings, and there are other instances also, this is something which is absolutely unacceptable. So much for the capital punishment, and this crime is something which has to be understood that it is not something that can be left unchecked. The next thing which is mentioned is وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. So these are two directives grouped in a single verse. So the first of them is, do not even go near the wealth of an orphan except in a goodly way uh, until he reaches maturity. Now, of course, this is something that was quite rampant in the prophetic society. So what would happen was that in wars, uh, children would get orphaned, women would get widowed, and then they would have guardians who would look after the children and who would look after the widows. And when even the mother was not there, so the guardians would be looking after children in such a situation. And the wealth that these children would have, or these orphans would have, would be entrusted to them. So they are being warned that these children whom you are rearing, whose wealth is entrusted to you, in no way you should gulp their wealth. It is something that is a heinous crime. It is something which is absolutely horrific, that these children who are given in your custody, and you start using their wealth to your own advantage and start wasting it, and you think that because these children they're immature and they are not yet of mature age, so you can consume their wealth. So that is something that is absolutely a grave crime, that you start usurping the wealth of young children. And then, of course, the next thing which is mentioned is that وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا, that you fulfill your promise. Remember, you have to fulfill your promise, because you shall be held accountable for promises. So once again, this is something that we have to understand, that giving our word is not only a commitment that we make with the person to whom we give the word, it is also a crime that will be checked. It is a sin if we don't fulfill that word, not only for the person with whom we had made that commitment, but also in the eyes of God. Person will be held accountable. So one of the things that we have to realize here is that there are commitments that at times you make about which we are absolutely sure that we will not be able to fulfill them. At the time we are making that commitment, we are quite sure that we might not be able to fulfill them, but we still go ahead and make that commitment. So we must learn to say no to such commitments. And also we have to understand that if we, out of some compulsion, some circumstance, we are not able to fulfill a commitment, then we have to apologize to that person, make amends, and of course, not let it happen again. Because remember, this is something that cannot be tolerated in a society which is based on commitments. And remember, commitments are at times given by word. I mean, they are stated, and at times these commitments are understood. For example, our commitment to our parents, it's nowhere written down. Similarly, our commitment to our own constitution, it might not be written down, but these are understood conventions of a society. So promises, whether they are tacit, whether they are blatant, whether they are something which have not been stated, all those kinds of promises are implied here, and the words are innal ahda kana mas'ula, that whatever promise you make, for that you will be held accountable. And then it is said إذا كلتم وزنوا بالقسطاس المستقيم ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا, which means give full measure when you measure, and weigh with correct scales. This is better and fairer as far as the consequences are concerned. So remember, viewers, that the Arabs, basically, they were traders. They were people who would sit in the markets and do all sorts of trading. And this is something which is specially given to them as a directive, and of course, something that we need to also always follow that we must weigh with correct scale when we are giving something. It has to be what we obtain, the measure should be the same. And today, whether it's petrol, whether it's milk, whether it's any other merchandise, we know that there is so much of admixing, there is so much of poor quality that is being sold simply because what is being exhibited as a saleable item is no longer the same item that we ought to sell. It has a lot of poor quality and less than premium quality substances which actually are mixed with the original. And thence we know that the scale that we weigh with also is something that would never measure correctly because that particular thing was never there in the full. And then وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. So again, a very important directive. It says that do not go after what you know not, because eyes, ears, and heart, all of them shall be questioned. So la taqfu ma laysa laka bihi ilm, which means that things that are beyond our comprehension and knowledge, things about which we don't have any idea, we must not in any way go after them. And it would not be right for a Muslim to make bad estimations about other Muslims or make allegations against others or take some action against others without proper knowledge of the matter, or spread rumors merely on the basis of speculation, or even form a view about God's being and his attributes and his directives merely on the basis of conjecture, guesswork, and speculation. The Quran has warned us that one must take this directive very, very seriously. It must not be taken lightly because our faculties of sight, hearing, and intellect shall one day be held accountable to God. So again, something that we have to be very careful about, things that which are beyond our knowledge, things about which we don't have enough knowledge, they must not be spread unless we have them verified, and at the same time, things which can never come in our knowledge also we should stay quiet about them. So the next thing which is mentioned is وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. Again, something which is very, very important, and that is, and do not walk arrogantly on the earth, because neither can you split apart the earth, nor can you reach the heights of the mountains. So this is the last of the directives, and after that it is said, كُلُّ ذَلِكَ كَانَ سَيِّئُهُ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ مَكْرُوهًا. The evil of each of these things to your Lord is very displeasing. So, la tamshi fil ardi maraha, again, something which is the manifestation of that arrogance that might deliberately, intentionally, or unintentionally come into ourselves. And that is something which the Quran does not want to happen. We have to be paragons of humility. Humility is the crown of humanity, and arrogance is the opposite of humility. So, arrogance must be checked. At times, arrogance is subtle, and at times it's blatant. And for example, we know that a very subtle form of arrogance is that when we make fun of people, although we do it in a light way, in a lighter vein, but we don't realize that when we mock at people or we make fun of them, then they are really hurt with that. So yes, I mean, cracking jokes or talking in a light vein, that's perfectly allowed. But when you make fun of people, when you mock at people, then remember, what you are doing is that you think that you are superior to them and you are making fun of some deficiency which the other person might have. So that's a very subtle form of arrogance as well. So we must be on guard that we must never be arrogant, but we must always keep ourselves in check. And one of the things that makes us humble is to always own up to our mistakes and always keep an eye on our mistakes and always keep an eye on the good qualities of the people who are around us. That makes us and keeps us humble. So with this, viewers, we come to an end today's session, and now you can ask questions. And I can see a raised hand. This is Noor. Noor, you can go ahead. Okay, so you have written down your question. You have said that I went to a fountain house to give charity and found that some of the ladies had been committed so that the relatives could take their inheritance. There was a woman who was looking for her son every day who had just left her there. And you have said that please comment on this. I mean, what can I say? This is something which is which is subhuman, I would say. When you abandon your parents, confining them to a fountain house, or the fountain house that we have in our city, is nothing wrong, because it's a corrective place, it's a rehab. But if you have parents who live there, then of course it's your duty, one parent or both parents, to go and visit them, and of course look after them. Because basically what you're doing is you're not able to give that rehab yourself, and you are seeking help from such places as the Fountain House. So I can only say that, well, this is something that is quite an understood commitment, that as children you have your duty towards your parents, and that cannot in any way be shirked. You cannot go over that duty. And if you consign your parents to such a facility, then it's your responsibility to take care of them. And if you don't, then I mean, this is a grave social evil that we find today in our society.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. I can moderate if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the next question is, since I don't see any raised hands, my non-Muslim friends at college asked me if any rule against domestic violence is mentioned in the Quran. I was not aware of it. Later, I read that domestic violence or marital rape is not criminalized slash illegal in Muslim countries or Sharia law. Why so? Is it not considered wrong in Islam?
You see, what we have to understand is that a lot of legislation is left to the parliament and to the legislative body. Islam basically has not legislated for many such crimes, and it has left the matter to the state. It has just legislated for five major crimes, like, for example, spreading disorder in the land, fornication, adultery, murder, theft, and falsely accusing someone of fornication. So these are the five major crimes for which the Quran has legislated. Other than that, any other crime, which is a crime, for that Parliament can convene and set up laws that goes against it. And the reason that this has not happened in most Muslim countries is because of the clergy, which exists there. They justify this on the basis of a hadith, which says that a husband has a right on his wife, and if he calls her to bed, and if she refuses, then she faces the curse of the angels and God. Now, this hadith, of course, has a very specific meaning. It is not something to be generalized. It only means, and it goes both ways, not just to men, not just to women, but to men also, that one of the reasons for marital faithfulness, of course, is that a husband and a wife, they are like robes for another. The Quran has called them hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna, that you are like an apparel to one another, and your own psychological, physical, sexual needs should be met by your partner. So, in case either of the partner evades this need of the other partner without any reason, it is here that the Almighty, of course, in that hadith through the Prophet has conveyed to us that, well, this would not be something which is congenial, which is not something which is in line with this marital, I would say, structure. So what happens is that people think that, for example, if a woman is not in a mood, the wife is not in a mood, or wife is not, for any reason, inclined towards any sexual activity, and even then, if the husband asks her, then she must comply, and that is precisely what is called marital rape. So that is a wrong understanding of this narrative. But because our majority of the clergy, they have this understanding, so therefore we don't have a law against it. If you ask me personally, I would have, I would personally have said that you don't need a law for this. All that you need to do is basically educate your husbands, and your men especially, that a right to have intimacy with your wife is not something that is a one-way demand. It must be the need of both spouses at the same time. At times, spouses at the same time are not ready for this contact. So this does not mean that one spouse is evading intentionally. This narrative, as I said, it especially relates to a spouse who intentionally and deliberately, in spite of being inclined, evades for reasons which make that other spouse then look outside the whole marital wedlock, or the marital situation or state, and then, of course, things like extramarital relations, they result. So that is my 2 cents regarding this narrative. But as I said, because our majority of the clergy, they are they think that this is not marital rape, or if it is marital rape, they think it's justified. So that is why we don't have laws.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. This was a really good question. Lubna, you may ask your question now.
جی السلام علیکم. میرا سوال سورہ مریم کے بارے میں ہے، جس کے اندر کے آیت نمبر 56 اور 57 کے اندر حضرت ادریس علیہ السلام کے بارے میں بتایا گیا اور کہا گیا کہ ان کو اللہ تعالیٰ نے قرآن میں کہا کہ ہم نے بلند مقام پر اٹھایا تھا. اور بائبل میں جو مفسرین کا جو میں نیچے پڑھ رہی تھی اس میں یہ تھا کہ ان کو اٹھا لیا گیا تھا زندہ. کیا ایسے ہی ہے؟ ہم بھی اس پر بلیو
نہیں، اس
کرتے
طرح
ہیں؟
کی کوئی بات نہیں ہے، اور یہ بائبل میں بھی ایسا نہیں ہے. یہ ہمارے لوگوں کا قیاس ہے کہ کیونکہ وہ مکاناً جو الفاظ آتے ہیں وہ مکان رفیع یا اس طرح کر کے الفاظ آتے ہیں، وہ ایسا نہیں ہے. وہاں اس کا مطلب یہ کہ ان کو بلند درجہ عطا کیا، یہ نہیں ہے کہ ان کو بلند مقام پہ لے دیا گیا. اس کا صحیح ترجمہ یہ ہے کہ ان کو بلند درجے پہ فائز کیا گیا، ان کو ایک اعلیٰ درجہ دیا گیا.
اچھا، یہ جو میں مودودی صاحب کی جو تفسیر پڑھی تھی اس کے اندر انہوں نے کہا کہ بائبل میں ہی ان کا یہی ذکر ہے، تو اس کے اندر انہوں نے کہا کہ ان کو اٹھا لیا گیا تھا.
نہیں، میں تو قرآن کی بات کر رہا ہوں نا، کہ بائبل کو تو ہم بعد میں دیکھیں گے. قرآن کے جو الفاظ ہیں وہ مکان علیہ کے جو الفاظ آئے ہیں اس کا یہ مطلب نہیں ہے کہ ان کو اوپر اٹھا لیا گیا تھا. وہاں مراد یہ ہے کہ ان کو اعلیٰ مرتبے پہ فائز کر دیا گیا تھا.
ٹھیک ہے. اور دوسرا ہی سورہ مریم میں آیت نمبر 64 ہے اور 65 ہے، اس کے اندر جو خطاب کر رہے ہیں، میں جاننا چاہ رہی ہوں کیا یہ حضرت جبرائیل علیہ السلام ہے جو نبی کریم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم سے کہہ رہے ہیں کہ ہم تمہارے رب کے حکم کے بغیر نہیں اترا کرتے جو کچھ
ایسے ہی ہے
ہمارے آگے ہے؟ تو
جی،
کیا یہ
بالکل
حضرت
ایسے ہی
جبرائیل
ہے.
علیہ،
یہ فرشتوں کی طرف سے ہی کلام ہو رہا ہے.
تو یہ جو دو آیتیں ہیں تو یہ خدا کی طرف سے نہیں ہے، یہ فرشتے ہیں جو
نہیں،
بات کر رہے ہیں؟
دیکھیں یہ ایسے ہے کہ پورا قرآن خدا کی طرف سے ہے، لیکن قرآن کے اندر ڈائلاگ ہوتا ہے. بہت ساری باتیں نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کہہ رہے ہوتے ہیں، وہ اللہ میں نریٹ کر رہے ہوتے ہیں. وہ ایسا تو نہیں کہ اس وقت وہ بول رہے ہوتے ہیں. شیطان بھی بہت ساری باتیں نقل ہوئی ہیں قرآن مجید میں، بیان ہوئی ہیں. سو اس کا یہ مطلب نہیں کہ شیطان وہاں پہ بول رہا ہے، وہاں اللہ میں حکایت کر رہے ہیں. یعنی وہ جو بات فرشتے کہہ رہے ہیں وہ فرشتے رہے ہیں، لیکن وہ حکایت اللہ تعالیٰ کی ہے. پورے قرآن میں آپ دیکھیں گے کہ بہت سارے لوگ گفتگو کر رہے ہیں. وہ گفتگو وہی لوگ کر رہے ہوتے ہیں جو کر رہے ہوتے ہیں، لیکن الفاظ اللہ تعالیٰ کے ہیں.
Thank you, Dr.
جی شکریہ.
Shehzad. Thank you, Lubna. Next, you have not mentioned your name, so it's Zoom user. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Sorry. السلام علیکم.
وعلیکم السلام.
آپ کو آواز آ رہی ہے؟
جی.
ہاں جی، آواز آ رہی ہے.
ایک منٹ، یہ میرا سوری، یہ پتہ نہیں کیوں میوٹ ہو رہا ہے. ابھی آواز آ رہی ہے؟
Yes, please continue. We can hear you.
اچھا، اوکے. میرا کوشچن یہ ہے کہ جو ہم نے ابھی پڑھا ہے کہ وعدہ خلافی، یا اگر آپ وعدہ کریں تو میرے ساتھ ایک انسیڈنٹ یوں ہوا کہ میں نے کسی کو پرومس کیا کہ میں ان کا قرض چکاؤں گی، اور جب ہم وقت آیا چکانے کا تو وہ ان کی باتیں بہت شیڈی لگ رہی تھی. وہ کبھی کچھ کہہ رہے تھے، دیر واز نو ڈاکیومنٹیشن، کوئی صحیح آدمی کا نہیں پتہ تھا جس سے انہوں نے لون لیا تھا. تو پھر میں بیک آؤٹ ہو گئی ہوں. تو اس کا کیا ہوگا؟ لائک یو نو آئی وانٹ ٹو ہیلپ دیٹ گائے، لیکن کوئی سچی صحیح سمجھ میں نہیں آ رہا کہ کس طرح کروں. تو اس کا یہ مجھے بتائیں گے کیا کرنا چاہیے.
نہیں، بالکل ٹھیک آپ نے کیا. اگر آپ نے جو کمٹمنٹ کی تھی وہ اس اصول پہ کی تھی کہ یہ جینوئن کیس ہے. اگر آپ کو بعد میں پتہ چل گیا کہ یہ جینوئن نہیں ہے یا کوئی اور انفارمیشن آپ کے پاس آ گئی جس کی وجہ سے آپ کے پاس یعنی اب اعتماد نہیں رہا، تو اگر آپ اس سے بیک آؤٹ کرتی ہیں تو یہ کوئی وعدہ خلافی نہیں ہے، کیونکہ آپ نے وعدہ کیا ہی اس صورت میں تھا کہ آپ اس کو جینوئن سمجھ رہے تھے. اب آپ ان کو بتا سکتے ہیں جی کہ مجھے آپ کی جو نیڈ ہے میں اس کو پورا کرنے کو تیار ہوں، لیکن مجھے آئدر نیڈ مور انفارمیشن، یا تو آپ مزید انفارمیشن لے کے اطمینان حاصل کر لیں. اور اگر آپ کو اطمینان نہیں ہوتا تو آپ ان کو کہہ سکتی ہیں جی کہ میں نے یہ کمٹمنٹ اطمینان کی بنیاد پہ کی تھی اور مجھے اطمینان نہیں رہا.
کیونکہ وہ مجھے بار بار کہہ رہے ہیں کہ آپ نے زبان دی اور آپ زبان سے پھر گئی ہیں. تو میں یہ کہہ رہی ہوں کہ مجھے گناہ نہ ہو اس بات کا.
نہیں، آپ کو
لیکن
گناہ نہیں ہوگا. آپ زیادہ سے زیادہ مزید انفارمیشن لے کے اچھی طرح سے چیک کر لیں. ہو سکتا ہے کہ کوئی مزید آپ کو چیز مطمئن کر دے، لیکن اگر آپ اتنا ضرور کر لیں کہ اطمینان کر لیں کہ وہ جو تقاضا کر رہے ہیں وہ درست نہیں ہے، تاکہ آپ کے پاس انکار کی نا ایک سالڈ وجہ ہونی چاہیے.
ठीक है,
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad.
thank
There's
you
a
so much.
question in the chat. Is it true that on the day of judgment, the Holy Prophet's hisab will be done first, and then he will ask whether his ummah has been questioned yet?
Certainly not. There is no such information available either in the Quran or any narrative of the Prophet. I mean, this is just I don't know where people have come up with this.
Okay, thank you. Samina Ahmed, you may unmute your mic and ask your question. Samina Ahmed, are you there?
So, sorry, I had, yes, I'm there. I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who ask for, help during Ramadan. And, my question, I get inundated with messages and phone calls. And my question always to them is that who gave you my number? And how do you know that I'll be able to help you? So I always get the same ditto answer that I was in a hospital and somebody was there. Some lady gave it to me and said, "This woman will help you." So, I mean, it's a standard reply that I get. Now, just a few days ago, this guy called the same question. He was asking for big amounts of money to educate his daughter. So he said, I fainted, and when I came to, मेरे इर्द गिर्द 3 बुजुर्ग खड़े हुए थे और एक बुजुर्ग ने कहा कि ये है इनका नंबर, इनको कॉल करो और ये तुम्हें हेल्प करेंगी. तो should I believe that fellow? I mean, I don't know.
नहीं, देखिए ये ऑब्वियस लग रहा है कि इट्स ऑल अनफॉर्चुनेटली इट्स ऑल मेड अप. तो आई थिंक आपने जब भी किसी को हेल्प करनी है, दिस इज ड्यू डिलिजेंस प्रोसेस होना चाहिए, क्योंकि देयर आर सो मेनी पीपल हु आर जेन्युइनली इन नीड. एंड जब आप किसी और को पूरा करें जो नॉन जेन्युइन है, तो आप एक जेन्युइन पर्सन की या ज़रूरतमंद की का हक जो है वो मारा जा सकता है. इस वजह से जो ड्यू डिलिजेंस है वो आप ज़रूर करें. और बाज़ दफ़ा ड्यू डिलिजेंस के बावजूद इंसान से गलती हो जाती है, बिकॉज़ ज़ाहिर है कि इंसान है, तो वो उसमें तो कोई हर्ज नहीं है. लेकिन आई थिंक इस ड्यू डिलिजेंस के बगैर, ख़ास तौर से अगर आप एक बड़ी चैरिटी रन कर रही हैं या ज़्यादा लोग आपसे रुजू कर रहे हैं, तो आई थिंक दिस इज़ आइदर अ सिस्टम शुड बी डेवलप्ड ऑफ दैट ड्यू डिलिजेंस, और समहाउ यू नीड टू वेट द पर्सन हु इज़ आस्किंग यू. अदरवाइज़ हर एक को अगर आप देना शुरू कर देंगी, तो लोग नाम बदल-बदल के, नंबर बदल-बदल के, सिम्स बदल-बदल के आजकल ये काम रमज़ान में तो बहुत करते हैं. सो आई थिंक कि इसका नतीजा ये निकलता है कि जो वाक़ई ज़रूरतमंद हैं, वो फिर उनकी ज़रूरत जो है वो पूरी नहीं हो पाती, बिकॉज़ वी आर डिस्ट्रैक्टेड फ्रॉम देम.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. There's a question in the chat. Will Muslims get another chance to be a real force in the world? Ustad Ghamidi says we have taken our turn and our opportunity is only in the fields and no, I guess it's battling chance ever till the end of times.
मतलब देखिए, वी डोंट हैव एनी जिसे कहते हैं ना कि concrete thing in the Quran or in any authentic narrative which say that there will be once again the rise of Islam. In fact, we have clear indications that we have had our turn, and we belong to the Semitic races. The Semitic races are the ones that descended from one of Noah's sons, and we have taken our turn. So before us, the Jews and the Christians have taken their turn, and now we can see from the scriptures that it's the turn of the basically the children of Japheth, which are Gog and Magog, and we see that their rise has just started. The Chinese and the Mongols, the East Asians, and some of them have spread to the other parts of the world as well. They are these yellow races, as the Bible tells us, and it does seem that near the end of time, it is these yellow races or these, these Mongols and Chinese who would be at the top of or at the helm of affairs. And then we know from the book of Revelations of the Bible that it would be they who would be the ones who would be ruling earth. And this is corroborated by the Quran as well. In Surah Anbiya, the words are Hatta iza futihat Yajuj wa Majuj wa min kulli hadabin and silun, that the day of judgment will not arrive until the Gog and Magog. They are ruling the important areas of the earth. This is what the Quran says. And if you look at the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the Bible, it shows that it is very similar. I mean, something which is very similar, but there's an additional detail, and that is that near the end of times, these Gog and Magog, the Yajuj and Majuj people, will try also to launch an onslaught in Hijaz, which is Makkah and Medina, but it will be, and they will be debarred from entering it, and that will be the time when the day of judgment will arrive. So that is the full story that we find in the Quran and to some extent in the Bible as well. We don't find the rise of Muslims anywhere there.
Right. Thank you so much. Rafia Khwaja, you may ask your question now.
Salam, Dr. Shahad. Dr. Shahad, in a recent program today, I heard you say that Muslim girl cannot marry a Christian. But what I've understood from other scholars and also what I read is that Muslims can marry men of Ahle Kitab as long as they don't do shirk. So I was a little confused as to what you were saying. Okay, you can marry a Christian or anybody as long as they don't shirk and they don't. Not everyone believes Jesus as the Son of God. So how would you explain this?
I mean, we have very explicit ruling from the Quran in Surah Maida, which says, "Wal muhsanatu min allazina utul kitab." That is the chaste women from among the people of the book. Only they are allowed to for marriage. And the reverse, of course, the Quran is silent about that, and that silence is not something which is not meaningful. It tells us that basically the Almighty wants us that we marry only Muslims. Marrying out of Muslims, even if they are Christians or people of the book, is like a second option because although they are monotheists, but remember they are deviant monotheists, they will still worship Jesus as the Son of God. And the child that's going to grow in your lap, or the children of the family that you're going to raise, of course, it will be exposed to the creed of polytheism or polytheistic practices. So the bottom line is that this is like a one step below. Otherwise, the Quran actually wants that we don't even marry Christian women for this reason, because the children they will rear, of course, would be mostly inclined to the mother. And it says that it is only allowed, if you look at the context, in areas where Islam has become a dominant force, and these women, even if they raise children on their own religion, they will be subservient to Islamic traditions. So that's what I'm trying to underscore, that even with Christian women, we have so much restrictions in the Quran. So what to speak of Christian men? So that is even a step ahead. So if you understand that basically Islam does not want us to go out of our own religion, because the creed of Tawheed or monotheism is something on which it does not want us to make a compromise. But it says that if ever you need to have a compromise, then it's like one step below. And for that, yes, okay, you can go and marry Christian women, but in areas and in times where Islam is dominant, so that the children that you rear, they don't fall to Christianity or any other creed.
Thank you, Dr.
Dr.
Shehzad.
Shehzad, I
Thank
know
you.
of Christians who don't believe Jesus as the Son of God, and they believe Jesus as a prophet. And so I
I
get
can.
very confused when I
So
argue with
see,
foreigners.
let me tell you that these are
You know,
called
for
Unitarian.
us to say that we are not allowed to marry, from what I understood from some other scholars, is that as long as they don't do shirk and they believe in one God and the day of judgment, you can marry them, and and of course they don't eat pork and all that. That is not allowed in Islam.
So
So
let me just correct you that this is a very small exceptional denomination of Christianity, and they're called Unitarian Christians. They have a big church in New York, and there are very few. If you look at all the huge number of Christians that are found, so maybe an exception can be made in case of Unitarian Christians. Because they don't regard Jesus to be the Son of God. But as I said, that's a situation that is a very rare and an exceptional situation. I'm talking more about the mainstream Christianity.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Thank you all for participating. We will all see you tomorrow, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.